absolutely right. And the president just put out a very strong statement condemning this attack. This terrorist came into our country under the previous administration. Joe Biden's administration foolishly gave him a tourist visa and that allowed him to unlawfully remain in our country. This individual should have been deported. Instead, he was welcomed here. And now, 3 years later, after coming to this country under Joe Biden's administration, he is lighting Jewish people on fire who were simply trying to peacefully pay respect to the hostages in Israel. This absolutely is an act of targeted terrorism. The FBI and the Department of Justice are investigating it as such, and the president is going to ensure that this individual is held to the fullest extent of the law. And not just this individual, but any individual, especially illegal criminals who engage in acts of terrorism, will be held accountable under this president.
Caroline, then. So how do we make sure there are not more people like that out there?
This is, again, an act of despicable evil. And this administration has already done so much to ensure that we are deporting individuals who seek to do harm in our country and who are in our country illegally. In fact, ICE Boston just announced the arrest of more than 1,100 illegal aliens who were in Boston in the surrounding suburbs in Massachusetts, which was a sanctuary city for a state for illegal aliens. The only place this country should be a sanctuary for are law-abiding American citizens. And that's why the president has taken historic, unprecedented action to secure our nation's territorial borders. But he has also signed an executive order to streamline and make stricter our legal immigration process and our visa process. And I would remind anyone here who is on a visa, like this individual in Boulder, Colorado, came to our country. It is a privilege, not a right, to enter the United States of America. And we are not going to allow people who are pushing anti-American values and especially engaging in acts of violence to remain in our country. Your visa will be revoked and you will be deported.
He filed for asylum in September of 2022. We've got the timeline that we want to put up on this after we read the there from Tricia McLaughlin. So he came in August 27th, 2022, September 29th, 2022. He filed a claim for asylum. February 26th, his authorization to stay expired. That was in 2023. But look at this. March 29th, 2023, a month after that, he's granted a work authorization by the Biden administration. What does that say, Caroline, about their vetting process?
They had no vetting process. This is something President Trump has been calling attention to for years. He talked about this on the Biden administration was allowing illegal aliens from all over the world to come into our country illegally, unvetted, untested. We had a wide open border policy, and the president was right to point that out in his statement this morning. All of that has come to an end, though, John. And this administration is focused on deporting as many of these illegal aliens who entered our country as possible. Again, this is not going to be a place of asylum for those who seek to do harm in the United States of America. We have a legal immigration process for a reason that this administration is focused on strengthening. But in the meantime, we are conducting widespread deportation operations across this country to remove terrorists like this individual from our communities every single day.
Right. Caroline, meanwhile, I want to ask you about the president and this big, beautiful bill. Rand Paul, the senator, the holdout, says the math doesn't add up, although he could support it if the debt ceiling hike is removed. Here he is in his own words on the Sunday Show over the weekend.
The math doesn't really add up. It's about $320 billion in new spending. To put that in perspective, that's more than all the DOGE cuts that we found so far. I think there are four of us at this point, and I would be very surprised if the bill at least is not modified in a good direction.
All right, so Trump did take to social to respond to the senator and said if he votes against our great, big, beautiful bill, he's voting for, along with the radical left Democrats, a 68% tax increase and perhaps even more importantly, a first-time ever default on U.S. debt. So how do you win over Rand Paul, and what changes is the president willing to see to this bill?
Well, anyone who votes against the one big beautiful bill, including Senator Rand Paul, will be voting for a tax hike of more than $4 trillion on the American people, and their voters will know about it. That is unacceptable to Republican voters and all voters across the country who elected this president in a Republican majority to get things done on Capitol Hill. And this bill is the most historic piece of legislation to ever move through Congress in modern history. Not only does it save nearly $2 trillion, but it also also delivers on the president's key priorities: no tax on tips, no tax on overtime for our law enforcement officers and all those who are putting in extra hours to make ends meet for their families. It also ends taxes effectively on Social Security for our seniors who are dependent on that Social Security income. It also has historic investments in border security, historic funding for the Golden Dome and our national security, and so many other incredible things are packed into this bill. So now it is before the Senate. Those discussions are ongoing, but the president is not going to back down from those key priorities that he promised the American public, and they are expecting Capitol Hill to help him deliver. We made the bill through the House. We need to get it through the Senate, back to the president's desk here at the White House as soon as possible.